Your mind won't stop at night. When everything is quiet, it gets louder. You close your eyes, but your thoughts keep spinning, chasing answers, searching for control, rehearsing every possible outcome, again and again. You've prayed, you've planned, you've tried to fix it all, but peace still feels like a stranger, and maybe, just maybe, it's not because you haven't thought enough, maybe. It's because you've thought too much. Today, God is speaking directly to your heart, not with noise, not with pressure, but with a whisper strong enough to break through your chaos. Stop overthinking and trust me. Have you ever felt like your mind is your biggest battlefield, like you're constantly trying to win a war you were never meant to fight alone? You want to trust, you do. But fear whispers, what if it all goes wrong? What if you miss something? What if God doesn't come through in time? What if you're the one who has to carry it all? But here's the truth. If fear is speaking louder than your faith, it's time to shift the volume. Because in this video, you're not just going to hear a message. You're going to be invited into a decision to release the pressure of understanding everything, so you can finally receive the peace that comes from trusting the one who does. You'll discover how to stop feeding the noise in your head. You'll learn to surrender without losing hope. And you'll see what happens when you let God be God in your thoughts, in your timing, in your life. So before we go any further, if your heart is already feeling this pull, don't resist it. Give this message a like so it reaches someone else who's silently drowning in their thoughts. Subscribe if you haven't yet, because messages like this aren't just content, they're divine interruptions. And comment right now, even before the message begins. I trust your timing, God. Why? Because when you confess it with your mouth, heaven begins to move in your direction. What if I told you that overthinking isn't just a mental habit, but a spiritual signal, not of weakness, but of misplaced focus? Because fear, though it hides behind logic, planning, and just being careful, isn't innocent. It multiplies. Thoughts, stretches, possibilities until they paralyze you, and whispers a dangerous lie. If you don't figure it out, no one will. But faith simplifies. Faith doesn't demand 10,000 scenarios. Faith says, if God is in it, one step is enough. The truth is, overthinking is often a desperate attempt to stay in control, to anticipate every outcome, to prevent every failure, to avoid every pain. But when did God ever call us to live that way? Philippians 4:6 breaks through the noise like thunder in a storm. Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. Notice what it doesn't say. It doesn't say, fix it yourself. It doesn't say, overanalyze until you're certain. It says, pray, let go, surrender. Because anxiety is the fruit of believing the weight is on your shoulders. But peace comes when you remember whose hands are really holding the outcome. Let me ask you this. If God already knows the end from the beginning, why are you exhausting yourself trying to predict what He's already planned? Overthinking pretends to protect you, but all it does is build mental prisons made of fear. You pace inside them over and over, replaying what could go wrong, while the door has been open the entire time. And here's the twist. God is not waiting for you to understand. He's waiting for you to trust, even when you can't see the road ahead, even when the silence is louder than His answers. He's still there, still working, still weaving every unseen thread together with perfect purpose. And sometimes the loudest expression of faith is not a shout, not a miracle, but a whisper that says, I don't know what's coming, but I know who's coming with me. So ask yourself, what if the thoughts racing through your head aren't evidence that something's wrong, but a signal that you've been holding the pen when God is asking you to hand it over? Because here's the mystery. The moment you let go of control is often the exact moment God steps in with power. And if that's true, then what happens next? might not depend on how much you know, but on how deeply you trust. Don't blink. The shift is closer than you think. There's a strange irony in the way we seek God. We cry out for answers while surrounded by chaos. We pray for clarity, but can't stop the noise. And when we don't hear him right away, we assume he's not speaking. But maybe the problem isn't that God is silent. Maybe the problem is that we're too loud to hear. Kings 19 tells a story that shatters expectations. Elijah, exhausted, afraid and running, goes to meet God. He stands at the mountain, waiting for a dramatic encounter. First comes a violent wind, shattering rocks. Then an earthquake, shaking the ground beneath him. Then a fire, consuming everything in sight but the voice of God. It wasn't in the wind. It wasn't in the earthquake. It wasn't in the fire. It came in a gentle whisper. Still, quiet, sacred. And here's the revelation. Overthinking drowns out that whisper. We demand signs. We overanalyze situations. We fill our minds with what-ifs, maybes, and mental simulations. But the louder our thoughts become, the more we muffle the very voice we're desperate to hear. God is not competing with the noise. He waits in the stillness, not because he's distant, but because his voice was never meant to fight for your attention. It was meant to lead your attention. Think of it this way. God doesn't shout to prove he's real. He whispers to see if you'll lean in, because faith doesn't always look like action. Sometimes it looks like stillness. Sometimes the most spiritual thing you can do is stop. Stop chasing answers. Stop calculating your next move. Stop filling your silence with strategies and listen. What if your next breakthrough isn't on the other side of more effort, but on the other side of sacred quiet? Psalm 46:10 says it plainly, "Be still and know that I am God." Not be busy, not be productive, not be right, be still, because stillness isn't passivity, it's positioning. It's the posture of someone who knows that hearing God is more powerful than fixing life alone. Let me ask you, when was the last time you sat in silence, not to demand, but to receive? What if God has already spoken, but your thoughts are so loud you missed it? What if the whisper of his will has been waiting in the quiet, right where you've been afraid to go? And what if, just maybe, that one whisper could change everything? Keep listening. The silence is pregnant with something holy. We wait. We wait for peace to come like a wave, calming our storms. We wait for signs to align, emotions to settle, and doubts to disappear before we dare to move forward. But what if we've been waiting for the wrong thing? You see, trust doesn't start when peace shows up. Trust is what invites peace to come. We often say, "I'll trust God when I feel ready." But real trust says, "I'll trust him even when I don't." Because trust is not a feeling, it's a decision, a holy, trembling, courageous decision to believe that God's way is better even when your heart is still wrestling. Proverbs 3:5 doesn't suggest trust, it commands it. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. It doesn't say trust when you feel certain. It doesn't say trust once you've figured it all out. It says stop leaning on your understanding and start leaning on his character, because the moment you make trust a feeling, it becomes unstable. Feelings are like the wind, changing direction without warning. But trust is a root. It digs deep. It holds firm. It grows stronger even in the storm. And here's the hard truth. If you wait to trust until your emotions align, you might never take the step that leads to peace. It's like standing at the edge of the Red Sea, waiting for it to part, when in reality the water often parts after you take the first step. That's how faith works. That's how trust moves. One of the most powerful things I've ever read says this: faith means living without scheming. Let that sink in. It means refusing to manipulate the outcome. It means not twisting God's timing to fit your calendar. It means laying down your blueprints, your backup plans, your just-in-case escape routes, and simply saying, Lord, I don't have to understand this. I just have to follow you. Because trust isn't the absence of questions. It's the refusal to make questions your God. Think of Abraham. He left everything without a map. Think of Mary. She believed without knowing how. Think of Jesus. He trusted the Father's will even when it led to the cross. Each one made a decision, not based on comfort but on conviction. And now it's your turn. What if peace doesn't come before you trust, but comes rushing in because you trusted? What if the answers you're craving are on the other side of surrender? And what if, just maybe, God is waiting for your yes, so he can release what you've been praying for all along? Don't wait for peace to give you permission. Let trust break the silence first. Let's pause for a moment. Let's step back from the noise and ask the question most people avoid. What are you still trying to control? That God is gently asking you to release. That situation, that outcome, that person, that fear you dress up as responsibility. You hold it tightly because you think if you let go, everything will fall apart. But what if holding on is what's causing the storm and letting go is the doorway to peace? Isaiah 26:3 carries a promise that almost sounds too good to be true. You will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast because they trust in you. Not just peace, perfect peace. The kind of peace that doesn't shake when plans collapse. The kind of peace that survives diagnosis, heartbreak, delay. The kind of peace that the world can't manufacture and fear can't touch. But did you catch the condition? Because they trust in you. There it is again. Trust, that holy thread weaving through every promise of rest. You see, control feels powerful, but it's actually rooted in fear. Fear of the unknown, fear of the future, fear that if you don't hold it all together, it will all fall apart. But friend, you were never meant to carry what only God can handle. Surrender is not weakness, it's strength, guided by faith. It's the ability to say, God, I'd rather walk into the unknown with you than stay stuck in the illusion of control. And here's what I've learned, not just from Scripture, but from the battles I've lived through. The moment I stopped fighting to figure it all out, peace found me, not because the situation changed immediately, but because my posture did. I stopped clenching my fists around the outcome and started raising my hands in worship. I stopped needing to have the answers and started trusting the one who is the answer. And suddenly, without fanfare, without explanation, peace stepped in like a gentle river, washing away anxiety, softening the edges of every unknown, and reminding me, you don't have to be in control to be at peace. That truth, it's not just for me, it's for you, right now. So I ask again, gently but urgently, what are you still gripping that God is asking you to place at His feet? What are you analyzing, fixing, tweaking, managing that He never asked you to carry? Because the moment you say, God, I give this to you, is the moment He gives something back. And it's not always a solution. Sometimes it's a stillness, a whisper, a peace that wraps around your soul like a blanket in a cold night. But you'll only find it after you release the weight. So release it, not tomorrow, not when it feels easier. Now, because peace doesn't wait on better circumstances, it waits on deeper surrender. And when that surrender comes, you might just feel heaven breathe on your chaos. You've been searching for clarity, for signs, for a map from heaven that spells it all out, step by step, answer by answer. You've whispered in the dark, God, just show me what to do. But what if clarity is not what you need most? What if it's confidence in the one who walks with you? Psalm 23:1 says, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Not because the path is easy, not because life makes perfect sense, but because we're not walking alone. Let this shake your thinking. Faith doesn't promise direction first. It promises a guide. God never asked you to figure it all out. He never said, "Understand me," and then follow. He simply said, "Follow. Me the shepherd leads, the sheep trust." That's the design, but we live in a world addicted to control. We want GPS faith, turn-by-turn instructions, ETA, contingency plans. God offers something far better. His presence. When you walk with the shepherd, even the valleys carry purpose. Even the silence becomes sacred. Even the shadows cannot threaten. The light he carries with him. And here's the truth, you don't have to see the way when you trust the one who made it. Think about that. He knows the terrain ahead. He knows what's waiting around the bend. He knows when to lead you beside still waters and when to guide you through the fire. And he never takes a wrong step. Maybe you're afraid because the path looks unfamiliar. Maybe it's darker than you expected, quieter than you hoped. But if you're walking with the shepherd, you're exactly where you're meant to be. Do you remember how Moses led the Israelites? God didn't give them a 5-year plan. He gave them a cloud by day and fire by night, just enough for today. And still, he never let them get lost. That's how God works. He leads you moment by moment, not mile by mile. He trains your trust in the now so you'll be strong enough for what's next. So no, faith isn't about always feeling certain. It's not about walking roads with signs and lights and easy exits. It's about walking blind, but walking close. And here's the invitation. What if today you stopped asking, "Where are we going?" and started saying, "Where you go, I'll follow." Because the goal was never the destination. The goal has always been him. He is the shepherd. You are his, and that's enough. You may not see the whole picture, but you walk with the artist who painted every corner of it. You may not understand the process, but you're being held by the author who already wrote your ending. So step forward, even if it's shaky, even if you can't see past the next turn, because this is what faith really means. You don't need to know the way when you know the one who leads. And just maybe, the very next step will be the one where everything changes. Listen, there's a voice, not loud, not forceful, but steady, like a soft wind brushing across your soul. It's God, and he's speaking straight to your restless mind. Stop thinking so much, just trust me. This isn't just another message. This is a divine interruption, a holy pause in the chaos of your overthinking. You didn't land here by accident. God called you to hear this because he knows. He sees how tired your mind is, how heavy your heart has become, how you try to smile while silently drowning in questions. But now is the shift. Let go. Not because you're giving up, but because you're finally giving in to him. Be still, not because you have all the answers, but because you've realized he is enough. Choose trust. Even when it's scary, even when it doesn't make sense. Release control, and in that release, watch peace rush in like a flood. Follow the shepherd, not because the path is clear, but because the presence is near. And hear this as if heaven itself were declaring it over you. You don't have to figure it all out. You just have to place it in God's hands. Because when you trust, peace comes. Real peace, unshakable peace, God-breathed peace. So now, this is your moment. Don't just leave inspired, leave transformed. Go to the comments and write these words in faith. I trust you, Lord. Not just as a sentence, but as a declaration, as a surrender, as a spiritual reset. Because sometimes 2 words can break chains, 2 words can realign your soul, 2 words can shake heaven and silence hell. I trust. And as you type it, something shifts. As you speak it, chains fall. As you believe it, you walk lighter, freer, stronger. This isn't the end. This is your beginning. Now go, walk in peace, stand in faith, and never forget, when you trust God, you never walk alone. Ever. Share this video with someone who needs this whisper from heaven, because today a soul just got its breath back.